welcome back to 12.3, multiplying monomials and polynomials. We're going to jump straight into the checkpoints underneath example 1, and we're going to go from there. So what do you have to do when you're multiplying a monomial by a binomial? Remember, monomial is just one term. Binomial is an expression made up of two terms. Term 1, term 2. Term 1, term 2. Term 1, term 2. So what do you do when you multiply a monomial by a binomial? You just apply the distributive property. And you multiply the number on the outside by every number on the inside. But the most important thing to remember is to draw back on your knowledge from chapter 4, multiplying exponents. Remember that when you multiply exponents, you add them together. So x to the power of n times x to the power of n really is just x n plus n. So again, one more time. When you're multiplying variables with exponents, you add the exponents together. Remember that that really means 3x to the first, and you're hidden 1 there, 5x to the first. So let's multiply it out. We have 3x times 5x plus right there, 3x times 6. What does that equal? I'll use a different color. Multiply your coefficients first. 3 times 5 is 15. And then add your exponents, x to the first plus x to the first. 1 plus 1 is 2, x squared. Plus, moving on to the second set, 3 times 6 is 18. 6 does not have an x attached to it, so we just bring over that x. And again, remember, you cannot add non-like terms, but you can multiply them. So while I can multiply 3x to everything, once I get to this point where all I have is addition left, I cannot add them. So I'm left with 5x squared plus, or not 5, 15x squared plus 16x. On to checkpoint 2. I have a binomial being multiplied by a monomial. Doesn't matter if the monomial is on the left side or the right side. I'm still distributing 2z to everything on the inside of my parentheses. So I have negative 7z being multiplied by 2z plus 1 being multiplied by 2z. Same thing as before. When I'm multiplying variables, I really just add them together. So step 1, multiply your coefficients. 2, add your variables. Negative 7 times 2 is going to be negative 14. I have z to the first plus z to the first. 1 plus 1 is 2. So z squared plus 1 times 2 is 2. This doesn't have a z, so I'm just carrying over my z from 2z. And my final answer is negative 14z squared plus 2z. Example 3. I have x minus 4 times negative 5x squared. So I'm going to take my negative 5x squared, multiply by everything inside of my parentheses. So I'm going to have x times negative 5 x squared plus negative 4 times negative 5x squared. Step 1, multiply your leading coefficients first. Step 2, add your variables. So in this case, I have x, there's a 1 in front of it. So 1 times negative 5 is just going to be negative 5. X times x squared. Remember, there's a hidden 1 above your x. So 1 plus 2 is going to be 3. X to the third plus 4, or negative 4 times negative 5 is going to be positive 20. I don't have an x in my second term, so I'm just going to carry over my x from my other one, and I'm going to get x squared. So my final answer, negative 5x cubed plus 20x squared. Checkpoint 4, I'm going to do the same thing. distribute what's on the outside to everything on the inside. There's a hidden 1 right there, and don't forget your hidden 1 above that a. And now I'm going to have a squared times a squared plus a squared times negative 7a to the first. A squared times a squared, 1 times 1, so your coefficient is 1. And then you have a to the second times a to the second. Add your exponents, 2 plus 2 is 4. So I really just have a to the 4th plus a squared times negative 7a. You have a hidden 1 right here, so 1 times negative 7 is negative 7. Then you have a to what power? A to the second times a to the first. 2 plus 1 is 3. So my final answer, a to the 4th minus 7a to the 3rd. If that sounds good, keep going with this lesson as we go on to example 2 and 3. If that feels a little bit foreign to you, go back and review chapter 4 on your exponent rules, and then come back to the rest of this video. Alright, moving on to example 2. So that was multiplying monomials and binomials. But what do we do when we have to multiply longer chains? Example 2 is multiplying a monomial, so one term, by a trinomial. One term compared to a 3-term expression. Example 2, find the product. A, we have x to the 3rd minus 3x plus 7. So A, x to the 3rd minus 3x plus 7 times 2x to the 3rd. Alright, we're going to do the same thing. We're going to take the number on the outside, or the term expression on the outside, and multiply it by every single thing on the inside. So this 2x to the 3rd is going to get distributed to each part of this. And don't forget your exponent rules, that when you're multiplying with exponents, you just add them together. So starting here, we have 2x to the 3rd times x to the 3rd plus 2x to the 3rd times negative 3x plus 2x to the 3rd times 7. And now we start multiplying. There's a hidden 1 right there, but 2 times 1 is just going to be 2. So 2, add your exponents together, x to the 3rd, x to the 3rd, so x to the 6, 3 plus 3 is 6, plus 2 times negative 3 is going to be negative 6. X to the what? Add your x's together. 3, hidden 1, x to the 4th, plus 2 times 7 is 14. You don't have an x, so you're just tagging that one on. X to the 3rd. And that's your final answer. Looking at B, we have negative AB on the outside, and then on the inside, 2AB minus A plus 4B. And we're going to do the same thing. The number on the outside gets distributed to everything on the inside. Because this is a negative AB, you can think of it as negative 1AB. And when you're multiplying by 1, nothing happens. But you do have to be remembering that negative sign. That might change things. So take your negative AB, and we're going to distribute it everywhere. And remember, you're distributing A to each of these, as well as B to each of these. So starting with negative AB times 2AB plus negative AB times negative A plus negative AB times 4B. Alright, negative 1 times 2 is going to be negative 2. And now we have A times A So a to the first plus a to the first is going to be a to the second. B to b, b to the first plus b to the first is going to be b to the second. And now we're done with this first term. Plus, we have negative 1 times an outside negative 1, which is going to be positive. Our two negative signs are going to cancel out. But now we have a to the first plus a to the first is going to be a to the second. There's no b here, so we're just going to tack this b on, plus b. This term is done. And now we're on to our last term. Negative 1 times 4 is going to be negative 4. A to the first times, there's no other a, so we're just going to tack it on, a. But now we have b to the first times b to the first. 1 plus 1 is 2, so b squared. And that'll be our final expression on example 2. Alright, example 3. Dividing a polynomial by a monomial. To find the quotient, you take your divisor, or your denominator, and you're going to divide it by every single thing in your numerator. And this, again, is going to pull on your knowledge from chapter 4. What happens when we divide exponents? When we divide exponents, we subtract exponents of like terms. So if it has the same variable, all we do is subtract them. So let's look at this. We have the expression 6x to the 6th, example 3. So 6x to the 6th minus 10x to the 4th plus 2x. And this whole expression is being divided by negative 2x. And what you have to remember is each term in your numerator is being divided by your denominator. So you're going to have to look at these individually. 6x to the 6th divided by negative 2x. Negative 10 to the x to the 4th divided by 2x. And then 2x divided by negative 2x. So it's easier if you just write a whole expression. If you say, okay, 6x to the 6th has to be divided by negative 2x plus my negative 10x to the 4th has to be divided by negative 2x plus 2x has to be divided by negative 2x. And again, remember what I said. X to the m divided by x to the n is equal to x m minus n. So we have to subtract our exponents. But start with your coefficients and divide them out. So 6 divided by negative 2 is going to be negative 3. X to the 6th minus x, remember your hidden 1. So x to the 6th minus x to the 1st, 6 minus 1 is going to be 5. So x to the 5th plus, now again, do your coefficients first. Negative 10 divided by negative 2 is 5. Next, do your variables. 4 minus your hidden 1. 4 minus 1 is 3, so you're going to have x to the 3rd plus, do your coefficients first. 2 divided by negative 2 is going to be negative 1. X to the 1st minus x to the 1st is 0. It cancels out. So you're left with just minus 1. And that's the end of today's lesson. Good job. You're welcome to start your homework.